You know, if you just joined us, you probably were watching F1 qualifying. You know what unfolded. But just in case you weren't, it couldn't have been more exciting. Michael Schumacher, on the last lap of qualifying, stole pole from David Coulthard by 98 one-thousandths of a second. That tells you the race tomorrow right here in Speed Vision is going to be awesome. 12:30 Eastern time right there at Montreal. It is going to be a great race. Don't miss it. We're, of course, very glad you're with us right now because we have a great race unfolding here at the Circuit de la Sarthe, and of course the Audis continue to lead right now because of, we should mention this, because of the driver change. Mario Andretti, of course, as you recall, getting behind the wheel of the number 11 Panoz, and the quick pit where elsewhere the Audis now are back to a 1-2-3 with that Panoz sitting in fourth. Watching on track, you see the severe hustle, though, still unfolding from the number 3. That's the Team DAMS Cadillac Northstar LMP, working its way by one of the WR LMP 675 Peugeots. They are still quick out there. You mentioned that the lap times have gone down just a little bit in terms of pace because of the slipperiness, the debris on the track, but they're still hustling pretty good. There, by the way, Danny, that's the car that we talked about in the very open of the show, the VW ROC entry in that new class, and it's been quick when it's been out.
It's been quick, and the sister car was quick, but they seem like they've had some problems. They were up pretty high. We'll just have to see what'll unfold with this car. See a little smoke coming out of the rear as it leaves the pit. That might be a little oil overflow.
Unfortunately, I think early on all the yellows that were involved really hurt that car. The first one wasn't bad, but a couple others really put it back to where it perhaps could have been running because it kept getting trapped back. GTS leader in the pits. This is the number 52 Team Viper entry, and looks like doesn't look like a driver change. They opened the door, topped off his drinks bottle, and we know these cars are running incredibly hot, Guy.
Running incredibly hot. Tommy Archer standing to the side, helmet on, gloves on, and he is not going to get in this time. Gets a signal, nods his head, and it's not in agreement, but he is not going to be getting in. They are continuing with the refueling at this point, and then once they get that fueling done, doesn't look they're set up for any kind of tire change, so they'll be out and on the way. And we'll see if we can ask Tommy real quickly why he wasn't able to get in the car. And Tommy, a decision as Tommy takes his notes right here. The car is refired. Tommy, the decision not to get in. He looked unhappy at the decision not to get in.
No, I'm fine. As long as he's fine, it's okay.
It's okay with you?
I got 2 more hours to do as soon as he's done.
All right, well, we'll watch out for you on those 2 hours. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
So Tommy Archer going to take another stint off, but it's going to get very busy for him next time up here as that car now is going to probably drop back in a second. That's how it's been between the 2 team vehicles. Welcome back to Le Mans. You are looking right there at the number 63 Corvette C5R. That's the car that currently sits 3rd in the LM GTS division behind the 2 Vipers. And in the 16th overall position. Some bad news here. This is that beautiful Courage C60 with the beautiful Judd engine. And Andrew Marriott, they've pushed it into the garage.
Yes, I have. I'm going to see if I can get a word with Gary from Art out here. Gary, what's the problem?
Lost the fuel pressure.
Well, I think Gary was breaking up there, but he said it was a fuel pressure problem. Very disappointing that that car had been going so well. We can just look down at the front here. Quite a lot of damage on the front of the nose, you see. Quite a bit of debris flying down here, but obviously a big disappointment for this Courage Judd.
That car designed specifically for the incredible speed, straight line speeds here in Le Mans. It had indeed been going quite well. We continue to get emails from our viewers, of course, stateside, as we take a look at our leader coming up to one of the Panoz. I believe that is Mario Andretti. So Mario perhaps about to go a lap down to the leader, another lap. That is, in fact, the number 9 entry. So that is the pace here. Keep an eye on this as Mario Andretti, of course, trying to get that elusive Le Mans victory. Has won everything else of note, and this one has escaped him. And I'll tell you what, the way this number 11 Panoz has been running, this could be his best effort in some time. But already 1 lap down due to the pit stops to the Audi there. Perhaps another lap going to go down right here. As a matter of fact, there's the move. And Stefano Ortelli moves left. right there, and Mario let him through. And they're now, boy, they're coming up on the car we were just talking about, third place in Le Mans GTS, and very close.
That was pretty close. Mario didn't give him a lot of room there, and he didn't. Corvette didn't move over exactly, which they can't, because if they get off in that debris or the slipperiness, he can put a wheel over the curb and cause some damage. But you know, it's odd, that car, Mario's car, do you think they painted it the same color scheme of his helmet? Because it looks exactly the same.
Doesn't it?
I'll tell you something, though. He's still a racer, that man. You see, as soon as his blood gets boiled because he's being chased or he's got someone to chase, I bet this is the best lap. This will be his quickest lap he's done since he got in the car, I'll guarantee it, because he's got someone now to go out and get after.
Look at that. See a little up over the curb, a little wheel in the dirt. He's trying.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to let that car go by.
Yeah, he's a 60-year-old racer. That's fantastic, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And of course, he hadn't been in the car. This is his first stint, so it's not like he's been in the car already and had an idea what's going on with the track. So he's trying to probably feel out an awful lot of what's developing here.
Well, the one thing, too, is the other two guys that are driving this car, David Brabham and Jan Magnussen, they race this car all the time.
Exactly.
They've got thousands of miles racing in this car, thousands of miles testing. It's very difficult, Alan, as you know, to come over here, jump in a car that you're unfamiliar, even doing testing, and expect to be right up there with the other two drivers.
Well, that's right, Danny. Not only is it difficult to jump into a fresh car and be quick straight out the box, but the other thing is he hasn't been racing either, as you know better than any of us. You've got to be race fit. The only way you get race fit is not going down the gym. It's not running around your local ballpark. It's driving a racing car. And Mario has not been driving racing cars in races for quite some time. So that's really what this is all about. But this is the great thing about Le Mans, of course. The longer he drives, the more he rows himself in, the quicker he'll get and the better he'll get.
And being a 24-hour race, you don't have to have quite the same freshness of skills as you do in a 2-hour or an hour-and-a-half sprint race. So you don't have to be quite on the same pace.
That's true, but there's nothing wrong with his eyesight, though. I mean, he left about the thickness of a piece of chicken skin between him and that Corvette coming around the Mulsanne corner.
By the way, it's Laurent Aiello who is driving the number 9 Audi that just passed Mario. The BMW of Thomas Bashir in the pits. I was about to set you up, Alan, with a question from somebody who sent us some email. Which are more extreme during race conditions? G-forces during acceleration or G-forces during braking?
It depends on the car, but by and large, the answer will always be braking. The way these cars brake these days, they brake a whole bunch quicker than they accelerate. In fact, on some cars, your eyeballs almost pop out of the sockets.
Have any idea how many sets of brakes the LMP cars will go through during the course of the entire race?
Well, it depends. I would have thought they'd go through at least one complete set of rotors, possibly 2 at the front.
But I will tell you, Raffinelli's car, he can go the entire distance on the pads and the rotors. They can do 14,000 kilometers on his rotors and his pads. He's not going to change anything.
You're amazing.
Technology amazes me. That's unreal. And for some, hey, a good football match is what's amazing. That's what's of interest, along with a quick bite. The food here in France, of course, quite good. Welcome back to the 68th running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. We are now just past 5 hours and almost 10 minutes into the 24-hour run. We're taking a look at the number 21 Olive Garden Raffinelli. That is the Lola Judd that has been really awfully quick and is now up into the top 5. Let's go back and take a look at the highlights from the first 5 hours of this event, in particular in hour 1. Of course, the start at Le Mans always so crucial. Sam Posey mentioned earlier, if you lead at the end of the first lap, if you lead at a done problem, which they continue to work on. And right now, I believe that's Didier de Radiguez has brought the Raffinelli Lola Judd down into the pits, or actually he's getting behind the wheel and will be getting back on track. That car continues to run very impressively. The pit stop now at 6th, but what a great run.
Yeah, they have problems with it, and they're not too sure what it is. Mimo Chattarelli was talking about the car being down on top speed, maybe even 20, 30 kilometers down on the Mulsanne straight. Now that's too much of a top speed to lose, but they're obviously driving it very well everywhere else because it's keeping up nicely. And of course, it does sound absolutely fantastic.
Sounds great, but we also saw him running in front of one of the Panoses, which are, you know, supposed to have such great power, and that Panoz didn't catch him for almost a lap, and that was more through handling than straight line speed. Well, so he can't be that far down.
Well, although the Panoses are down on top speed, I was told they may be lifting because they've got aerodynamic problems as well due to these Le Mans Club rules about putting the gurney flip on the rear wing. The Panoz has definitely had its aerodynamics destroyed here. It's struggling.
They have, because they brought the same cars from last year in the same setup, and they were way off from what they had done in the past. They did put it down to those little...
yeah, the cars work beautifully. In the arms racing, the Panoz is absolutely fantastic. But here, thanks to these ACO Club rules, it's having trouble with its aerodynamics.
A nicely routine stop for the Team DAMS Cadillac North Star, and that car is back out and underway. Good look at the remaining Courage on the track, the number 16 entry right there, as the number 17 is in the garage, and they continue to work on that machine. Once again, about 5 hours and 15 minutes in to Le Mans. Weekends like this one are exactly the reason why Speed Vision News Race Week was launched. With just about every major series competing, Race Week is the only place to get highlights, results, and analysis of Le Mans, NASCAR, Formula One kart, Trans Am, IRL, NHRA, bikes. Well, the list just goes on and on. So remember, please join Bill Patrick and Bob Barcia at 7:30 p.m. Eastern and again at 8:30 Pacific for the most comprehensive recap of this week's racing action. Speed Vision News Race Week. Wayne Taylor in the pits. The Cadillac program continues here at Le Mans. Of course, Taylor has been having a bit of a workout earlier. And speaking of the Caddy program, Danny Sullivan, who's raced here fairly recently, got a special moment to step back in history earlier.
In 1950, Briggs Cunningham of America bought a couple of Cadillacs, brought them over to France, drove them from their hotel in Paris, brought them down to Le Mans, and raced. And that was 50 years ago. We're now here at Le Mans. Cadillac has a big program here. Why? You all have never really been big in racing. Why are you here, and why at Le Mans?
Well, Le Mans affords the brand as we begin to sort of redefine Cadillac and expand it across the globe. There's no better venue to really connect with a worldwide audience and convey just a radical rate of change. And obviously the idea of Cadillac showing up at a major international endurance race does convey a certain message that this brand has been completely changed for the future. And it's on the road now to really getting people focused on what we really aspire to be, which is a great international luxury brand.
And how has Cadillac been received by the French?
Extremely well. In fact, there's a lot of interest in the great Cadillac. Most people in Europe still think Elvis and tail fins or maybe something like the Briggs car behind us. But in actuality, what we're trying to do is convey to them just how actually good our cars are with the North Star engine and Stabilitrack and a lot of our systems. We have very competitive vehicles on the global scale, and this definitely opens their eyes to how good we can really be.
Well, we wish you luck here, and all the Americans will be cheering for Cadillac. Thank you.
Thanks.
What a great return they've made. By the way, if you want to follow the inside ideas and action and what's going on with the Cadillac and the Corvette efforts here at Le Mans this year, go online, www.gm.com. You can even see some telemetry, some real inside stuff. It is absolutely fascinating, so make sure that you enjoy that. There's a good look at the Freisinger, one of the two Porsches in GTS. In the GTS category. Let's go back and take a look at what happened just a few moments ago. It looks like, I don't know if that's an engine problem or just lockup and blowing the chicane big time. Oh, even worse. Does he make it? Oh, what a save. That is one of the GT Porsches. That's the number 75 entry. And, boy, I'll tell you, once that went wrong, they did a great job. The Manthe Racing entry. That's young Gunnar Jeanette along with Michael Lauer and Mike Brockman. But we have problems for one of the other Porsches down in the garage, Andrew.
Yes, this is a sad tale for the King of Spain, actually, because this is a car which is run by his cousin, Prince Alfonso. And I think Thomas Saldana, who's long driven for a Spanish team, has crashed his car fairly extensively. You can possibly see the front damage here. And personally, I think this is going to be a DNF, this particular car.
That is very unfortunate indeed. And, you know, one of the things that really struck me when I was looking, and we just lost the shot right there, but on those GT class cars, right in front of both of the front tires are the engine cooling radiators. That seems like an awfully vulnerable spot for those to be in race term.
Yeah, I agree with you. The first time I saw one of those cars with its clothes off, I looked at those two water radiators down there, either side at the front. I thought, as soon as you hit anything, you're going to puncture the radiator. They're just made of aluminum. They're very fragile. In fact, the radiator in the front, which I thought was for oil, is in fact for water.
Yeah.
That car takes 27 litres of water.
Does it really?
Yeah, because it's producing 450 horsepower. They're awesome cars, but very, very vulnerable. So if you go off and you clout the barrier ever so slightly, you can puncture a radiator, the water runs out, you've cooked your engine. But what they've gone and done there, of course, is clouted something really hard, and they've deranged the whole front end of the car. And I think that, as Andrew says, very true statement, I think that's definitely going to be a DNF. It's too much like hard work, having to bash all that out. You need jackhammers and pneumatic pumps and goodness knows what to get all that back out.
Got a good look there at the class leader in the GTS division, the number 52 Viper Team Oreca entry. And maybe that's Porsche's way of suggesting to the GT teams, make your overtaking attempts very careful and make them very decisive when the opportunity comes. So, the sun now low in the sky, the shadows long. We're heading into dusk here at Le Mans. You're looking now in the Cadillac garage. Andy Wallace back behind the wheel of the number 1 Cadillac as it is about to make its way back onto the track. The engine has in fact come to life. There's a look at one of the Vipers, and timing being everything. Eric Vanderpool has just joined us in the booth, and Eric, of course, you're driving the team car number 2, and a couple of moments in the early going here, the moment in pit lane and then the spin. What happened with the spin?
Yeah. You know, when we leave the pits, always we must be very careful with the tires. And it was my second lap, and there was a little stone on the corner, but it was my mistake. I was not cautious enough, and it's really my mistake. And I apologize to the team, you know, but it happened sometimes. But after that, everything was okay. We just took too much time to change the wing. It was very long. But anyway, no, the car was perfect after. When I drove it, it was absolutely perfect, no problem.
All right, very quickly here, you see the number 63 Corvette in the pits, came in 16th for our Corvette team update. Those cars, 63 and 64, the team cars, have been right with the Vipers in that division since the get-go, about a minute behind the leading one, so it's fairly close indeed, and they are having a very, very strong run. The other, Eric, that I wanted to ask you very quickly, Wayne made a couple of stops very early, back-to-back. There was talk of a vibration problem. What was that?
Exactly, it was a vibration from the wheels, and I think there was some weight losing from the wheels, and it was better to stop because we never know if it's aerodynamics or if it's going from the wheels, and it was more. I think it was a good thing to stop twice. It was during caution, and we didn't lose a lot of time anyway.
It must be very comforting, Eric, to know you're driving a tough old bird of a car, because you gave that barrier a decent clout. We saw it on the screen like buckle, and I thought, uh-oh. But that's a tough old car. You know, you just drove it round and off you went.
But if you saw the barrier moving, it means it was not. It was very soft. For me, it was very soft. If the barrier was very strong, if it was a wall, I think it would be much worse.
But even after that, the wing's all messed up. It's kind of broken in the back. You came back at a pretty quick pace. You weren't going very slow. You were legging it pretty good.
Yeah, I was just watching my rear wing because you never know what happened. But my steering wheel was straight. It means the front suspension was okay. I had no vibration, nothing. I knew it was just the wing behind and maybe the rear boot.
All right, very quickly, Mario Andretti is bringing the number 11 Panoz down into the pits, and right on the mark, Andrew.
Yes, he certainly is on the mark, and I can tell you that Mario is staying in for a second stint here. They're just pumping some fluid in behind him. I think they're topping up his water bottle, actually. The car already very travel-stained here, but the great maestro is doing a wonderful job here. 60 years old, he's still going quickly. And a quick stop, he hasn't used up the tyres at all, and they're not changing tyres. It's purely a refueling stop. A bit of smoke in the cockpit there when he tried to fire it up. They wipe the fuel away, Mario. You hear the burst of the motor there, and off he goes. A quick stop from Mario Andretti. Super Mario.
Well, and when he left the pits last time on his first attempt, he stalled it. Obviously, he was bound and determined not to let that happen again. And believe me, folks, once he gets past the pit lane speed line right there, he has dropped the hammer and has taken off.
I want to ask Eric some questions, too. You all are running on the Pirelli tires. The track is very, very greasy at the moment. I mean, a lot of people have been spinning, going off. We've seen that everywhere, punctures, so forth. Here's one of your cars going out, one of the Cadillac, your sister car. Is it, will you look for better things as the sun goes down? Will you all be able to pick up the pace quite substantially?
Yes, from experience, I know that the Pirelli are getting better when there is more rubber on the track. Then we had, I think, a good choice for the day with this condition. Was quite okay, was consistent. I don't know what happened when Frank explodes his tires. Maybe it was some carbon fiber on the track, we don't know, because it happens quite often when you lose, when they have some body work on the track or something. After that, usually there is some explosion from tires. But I have to say that more rubber is coming, and during the race it's getting better. For Pirelli especially, it's a big gain. The second day, I'm sure tomorrow will be much better. We will be closer from the front.
I was thinking that as a race car driver, nothing is more frustrating than to have a minor mishap, an off, for instance, that might put you out of this great, great race. And yet, the converse, once you know there's nothing wrong and you can continue, nothing is more satisfying because you've got a second chance to get in there.
Exactly, and it's better when it's happened in the beginning of the race because you never know what happened to the other one.
And I got to ask a really funny question. At the scrutineering in town, when they take the pictures, everybody came out and donned a cowboy hat. But yet you're the only one who actually, and you're Belgium, but now living in San Diego, you're the only one who actually wears one all the time. You must have felt right at home with all the scene. I hear it was very funny.
Yeah, it's an Australian one. You know, I use it since 5 years now. It's good for the sun. It's good for the rain. And when you are in a hurry in the paddock, it's easy. You just put it in front and you work fast.
But it's your image. Everybody always knows you in that hat.
Eric, can you stick around for just a couple more minutes?
Sure.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick moment then and step away. We've got some pit stops we understand are on their way. We want to be ready for them. Welcome back once again to Le Mans, and the action continuing on the circuit. Of course, one of the great things about the battles in class, but also the passing and the working through traffic, like right here, number 9, that is Laurent Aiello, who has just made a pass of one of the GTS cars, and our GT leader is in the pits. Guy Hobbs.
Yeah, the Dick Barber Racing car number 83, driven by Bob Wallach, has just pulled into the pit. It has a 1-lap lead in the GT class, so they're taking their time over this stop. All the fuel is in, the air jack is now going up. We're going to see an engine change. Bob has strapped in Lucas Luhr, who's going to take over for him. And Bob looks pretty tired. We're going to try and get a word with him as he undresses, takes his gloves off. Looks pretty hot too, but he looks pretty happy with the car. Gives a little hand gesture there. Of course, Dick Barber is returning to this race here at Le Mans 20 years after he first came here. He's been out of racing for a while, but since his return has had very good success. And Dick is looking on. Of course, Tony Dow is overrunning the operation. And it looks like Bob's gone to the back of the pit, so we may have to wait for a second. I'll try and work my way and see if we can get Bob to come out and have a quick word with us. As the pit stop continues, Bob's helmet comes off. And of course, we spoke to Bob at the top of the show, don't forget, as he takes his balaclava off. Let's see if we can get Bob to come out here, out front and have a quick word with us. And here, Bob, if we can just step out here and get a quick word with you. Again, your return to Le Mans. We talked about it at the top of the show, your 30th running. Did it feel great to be out there again in the car?
Well, we don't have any problems. I'm just out of the car, so I don't know what's happening. I know that we're running first, but I don't know how big is our lead. I don't know what's going on in the lead. I mean, I don't know who is leading.
Well, you don't want to be concerned with that. You want to be concerned with the fact that you're leading your class.
Yeah, we're leading the class, but I mean, overall, who's leading overall?
Well, number nine right now, the Audi, of course, has been running up front pretty much all day.
Well, it's probably a little bit boring for the spectators because I didn't see many cars overtaking me, so probably a lot of cars dropped out of the race.
There's been a few cars out of the race. There's been a few incidents, of course, a few yellows. How was the surface? Some surface problems on the track, maybe causing some troubles?
It's very slippery. It has been hot and there's a lot of oil, so it's sliding quite a bit.
All right, well, a word of warning to the rest of the drivers out there. Bob, congratulations. We'll catch up with you later on. Bob Wallach making his 30th career start here at Le Mans.
Boy, Bob Wallach and Mario Andretti on the track at the same time. Some legendary names out there. By the way, one of the cars that was putting some pressure on there was expected to be able to pressure that number 83 Barber entry, the 71 Aspen Knowles machine. We saw that it went out earlier. What happened, apparently, Shane Lewis hit the wall after spitting an oil from the blown engine of the Deborah car, so that's what kept them out. And just a few moments ago, a close call out on the track for the number 17 Courage and the number 73 Tim Tyson advantage. You look at that. Courage trying to make the pass, thought he had cleared him and clearly hadn't. That number 73 Porsche has been in the midst of a couple of close calls out there.
Well, that Courage really moved over. He didn't need to do it at that particular spot. He wasn't going to gain a lot, but he moved over and kind of caused that incident himself.
I was just thinking with Eric still here. You know, Eric, it's all very well, these cars today are made of these fabulous space-age materials, carbon fiber, for instance, but once it shatters and gets on the track, that, I think, is why we're seeing so many punctures, because every single car here is running radial ply tires, which are meant to be a lot more puncture-proof than the old cross plies. And that carbon fiber is so darn shard-like, it'll puncture anything.
Exactly. It's why the job of the marshals are very important. I mean, when there is an accident or a bodywork who go away in the straight, they must be very conscientious and to take off everything.
Well, you've been very generous to give us your time, and you've consented to sort of talk us through the spin that you had out there, because you haven't seen it yet. We're going to roll that tape. If you can explain to us, Eric, just what happened. As you said, the debris on the track, obviously offline, was nasty.
Yeah. This is something you're not real happy about. No race car driver wants to look at that spin, but do the fans a favor and kind of give us a go. Here you are.
Yeah, I expected to recover the car, but you know, with the turbo, the power is coming soon and in once, and I just put the power too early, and it was my mistake. There was no excuse of that. It's, you know, I was just out of the pits, and the tires was not yet in perfect condition, and there it's a place where you need the power just at the exit to get a good speed in the straight, and I was too early on power.
Obviously, this was an indication, one of those times when the phrase team really comes into play, because when you got it back to the pits, they did a phenomenal job of getting that car back and on track. We want to go back down to the pits quickly. Guy Hobbs has caught up with one of the Americans we're following with great interest here, Tommy Kendall.
A thirsty Tommy Kendall. Tommy has, of course, raced 5 times, raced 5 times at Daytona, but the first time here at Le Mans. First impressions out there on the track, Tommy.
Oh, man, what a ball. I'm just starting to learn the track now. You know, I got a good bit of laps in practice, more than normal from what I hear, but finally starting to find a rhythm, and it's just a gas. You're just out there, and the Porsche is running like a freight train. Not a fast enough freight train relative to the Vipers and the Vets, but Franz promises me if we don't throw her in the gravel and we don't blow it up, that we'll be in pretty good shape by the end.
Well, of course, Porsche has a great history here at Le Mans, and of course, a very good enduro racing. How's this compared to Daytona, though? Because you're not running up the high banking, but you've got that huge long straightaway and some tricky overtaking areas.
The track is much more technical, but it's a lot easier physically. So maybe a little tougher mentally, but not as bad physically. And this car especially really drives very nicely. I mean, it does everything it's supposed to. It's not quite fast enough, like I said, but it shifts like a street road car almost, and very smooth power. It doesn't beat you up. And so I think we're going to be nice and fresh for the end.
And the foot's okay?
Yeah, everything feels good.
All right, thanks, Tommy. We're going to go down to Andrew Marriott right now.
Yeah, well, I've got Emanuele Pirro here. Emanuele's going to get in the car in about 12 minutes' time. You're looking very cool, Emanuele. The car's running in 3rd place. Did you expect to be in front of your teammate?
Yes, I did, actually. We've been very unlucky, or pretty unlucky, because we had a puncture, so we had an unscheduled pit stop, and we were about 40 seconds behind, and then when there was the accident, we were caught between one pace car and the other, and so we virtually lost half a lap just because of bad luck. And so now we're trying to catch up, but obviously it's quite difficult to catch up against somebody who's got the same car as you have, you know.
Manuel, thank you. I think it's going to be a long, hard night for you.
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, the race has just begun, and everybody says that to win Le Mans, you've got to be quick at the end, not at the beginning. So this is true. We're looking pretty good.
Thanks very much, Emanuele. Back to you in a booth.
Well, thank you, Guy, and thank you, Eric. We understand you've got a little bit more you may be doing in the next few hours, like driving and resting, so we'll let you get going. But thanks so much for coming up. We appreciate you taking the time to do that.
No problem. It's very difficult to leave Speed Vision at home or here.
All right, well, then you must go so you can at least watch it and relax.
I have to go. I have to go.
All right, thanks so much. And, folks, we'll be back as well. Welcome back once again to Le Mans. You are on board the number 64 Corvette of Frank Freon. And what a remarkable view this is. The sun setting, you can see the glint on the windshield as they are working through this glorious circuit. Now, of course, this is not the first ever appearance at the Sarth for the Corvettes. As a matter of fact, they've got a pretty storied history here. A little earlier, Sam Posey took a look.
40 years ago, millionaire sportsman Briggs Cunningham brought 3 Corvettes to Le Mans. Despite having to pit frequently to pack the engine compartment with ice to remedy an overheating problem, the number 3 vet, driven by John Fitch and Bob Grossman, finished 8th overall. Over a decade later, John Greenwood brought his radical star-spangled red, white, and blue Corvette to Le Mans and set an unofficial class record on the Mulsanne straightaway of over 211 miles an hour. Next, the Corvette GTP was introduced. Entered by Rick Hendrick, now of NASCAR Winston Cup fame, powered by a V6 turbo, the car was driven twice to wins in 1986. The latest chapter of the Corvette story began to be written earlier this year at the 24 Hours of Daytona. Newly fitted with a monster 7-liter V8 engine, the car outqualified the potent V10 Team Oreca Vipers and just narrowly missed taking the overall victory, losing by just 30 seconds, the closest finish in that race's history.
And they are back at Le Mans with a vengeance, a very solid factory effort, in fact. And there they are in the pits. Frank Freon getting out. I believe that is, I think that's Chris Neifel getting in, Andrew.
Negative. This is Andy Pilgrim has just got in. He's the shortest of this group here. Frank Freon indeed did get out of the car with his bright pink crash helmet. Frank, of course, raced here in the past with the Japanese driver Terada. Of course, you see him racing in the States a lot. He's just getting Andy all strapped in, and lots of bugs on the screen, I noticed, and a little bit of steam coming out of the front radiators. They are going to change a set of Goodyear Eagles here, so this is going to be one of the slightly longer stops, and I'll try and grab a word with Frank Freon once this is all over. But yeah, it is absolutely fantastic, isn't it, to see the vets back here, and let's hope we see them battling wheel to wheel just as they did in Daytona.
And once again, folks, we want to remind you, if you go online at gm.com, you can really follow the progress of both the Caddy and the Corvette efforts here from the inside. Some great information, telemetry, some onboards as well, so you can do that. Very quickly here, we've had some emails about temperature, and I want to get to that. One of them, Chris Baker from California City, says she's been hearing a lot about comments about the heat, but no numbers. What's the actual temp? We were over 90 when it started. The track temp 110. That's obviously starting to come down as the sun starting to settle in the sky. What's the weather like for the duration of the race? Any chance of rain or fog? Comes from Kim Keller of Merritt Island, Florida. No chance of rain, no chance of fog. There's not a cloud to be seen on the horizon. And Chris added in his email 105 Fahrenheit yesterday. Okay, Chris, you win. It's much more pleasant here than that.
Yeah, but for under race conditions, this time of year, and in France, this is pretty warm. They haven't got a 94 when I was here. It was warm, but it wasn't close to this.
Yeah, the problem is when it gets hot like this, you never quite know what's going to be affected because there are a few degrees difference in all the fluids. So things get hot, things get bothered. I also think it brings up out of the track itself stuff that might otherwise lay dormant, because it gets that hot, it starts to melt. Sure. That's why everything's so darn slippy out there.
Absolutely. It brings the oil to the surface. It brings the tar, makes everything a little bit softer. But what happens is most of these manufacturers have 2 different tires that run at different temperatures. As the night comes, they'll put the softer compound tire on.
We're getting a look here. We just had a look at a replay of the number 6 Mopar Team Oreca. That's the Mopar Reynard, and it's come to a stop in virtually the same place the sister car did, the number 5 car, very early on at the exit of the Mulsanne hairpin. So some serious problems there. One of the things is the sun is lowering here without any cloud cover. As you come out of some of the very high-speed corners here, Lamar, the sun low in the sky, right in the driver's eyes on those windshields. It's getting interesting. Welcome back to Le Mans. Good luck over the hump for the leading car, the number 9 Audi R8 in the hands of Laurent Aiello. And I'll tell you what, that is one of the more glorious shots of views of any type of motorsport. Hey, the number 6 Mopar Reynard has been able to get back and going. I'm sure it'll be a slow trip back to the pits. Meanwhile, one of the loosely sister cars is in the pits. Tire technicians taking some very intense measurements. As it gets cool, they're talking about triple stinting the tires, so that's going to be a factor. Earlier this morning, before the race started, there was a very special event that was held here. And Alan, this race included for you, I'm sure, some heroes, some contemporaries, and a lot of friends. It was the historic race.
Yeah, the historic race is really quite something. It's the Shell Challenge, basically. This race is for Maseratis and for Ferrari cars. And look how they're going to start the race. Yeah. Now this guy running across the road here in the green, this guy hobbling along, he's only got one leg. That's David Piper. He used to race for me many years ago in the 60s. He's getting into his 250 LM there with great difficulty because obviously with one leg it's tricky. He doesn't get away too soon. Everyone else has got away in front of him. Here they go. That's a Daytona up the front, another Daytona. GTO Ferraris. That's a Dino 206S. There's 300S Maseratis here. That's a short wheelbase 250 GT. Uh-oh, going off at Arnage and bashing into the tires. Wasn't too clever.
I think now that's a little bit shorter. We also ought to say that David Piper lost his leg during the filming of the movie Le Mans. Is that not correct?
That's absolutely correct. And Steve McQueen, in fact, was most upset that poor old David lost his leg with his Christmas card that year. Had a picture of Steve McQueen shouting into a megaphone, "Hey, that was great, David. Now, can you do it again while we put some film in the camera?" Now, there's a juicy piece of sliding for you. See, what I worked out is that the value of this old car grid is probably 2 to 3 times the value of the 24-hour grid. And these guys are throwing these valuable old cars around like there's no tomorrow. But that's the joy of racing vintage cars. It really is great fun.
And more as they start to refabricate some of the suspension components and the like for the grip of the new tires, more and more it is becoming vintage racing and not just vintage touring, isn't it?
Well, we were at Monaco the week before the Grand Prix, and I tell you, it was like this was going to be the last race that would ever take place, the way these people were driving the cars. And I mean, literally living with the gods round there, lap after lap.
And you take a guy like Neil Corner in that absolutely invaluable 250F Maserati that Fangio won the Monaco Grand Prix with. He's racing that thing at 10 tenths, going like it was, like you said, the last race of his career.
Well, you've been up against those guys yourself. Remember the Goodwood race? You won it beautifully in that Lola, but as you know, they don't take any prisoners, these old car drivers.
No way. They are very good and they are very quick, and anybody who thinks that they don't race these vintage cars, come over and watch one of these events at Goodwood and you'll find out it's different.
It would be fun, in fact, to put some of our better vintage drivers into some of these Le Mans cars, because we have guys driving those old cars who've got absolutely brilliant car control. If you can fight a 30, 40-year-old Grand Prix car in the wet or on oil and keep it on the track and do great times, you could come to Le Mans and you could compete here.
Absolutely. And in fact, talking to Neil, he said that he, you know, at one stage wanted to be a driver, but just family business and so forth.
He came
prevented, and a very talented guy.
Yeah, he did come here, actually. He raced here in 1973 in a Daytona, and he was seriously quick.
I want to jump in with an email. I think this one is actually, I mean, this is a great question from Dave O'Neill. It doesn't say from where. But he asked, when you have a multi-car team at Le Mans, one car goes out early, and he gives the example of the DAMS Cadillac and the fire, does the crew for that car pack it in, or do they relieve the crew from the second car? The crews go through absolute hell here.
That's a very good point. The drivers certainly are not allowed to jump into another car. The days where one driver could be bolted into another car have gone. You can only drive the car you qualified in. What happens to the crews? You know, I wouldn't be at all surprised. It's such a grueling race that if one of those cars is still in the race towards the end of it, they probably do grab a few guys from the other team who've had some rest, because you can pack them off to a caravan and get them to rest. The most difficult thing for any crew here at Le Mans is getting some rest, is sleeping, eating, drinking, attending to nature. It's really, really difficult to find the time to do it.
Well, oftentimes that tends to be one of the endearing moments, visuals from this race, as a mechanic just balled up into a set of tires trying to grab a nap at about 4 in the morning. We'll be right back. Welcome back once again to Le Mans. As you see the sky there, that slightly pinkish hue, dusk is fast upon us. We're almost 6 hours in, and let's head down to the pits to Guy Hobbs for our Mopar update. Guy?
Yeah, for the Mopar update, Didier Andre in that car. He brought it in. They rolled it into the garage area, took the rear coiling off, the front coiling, checked underneath. They had throttle cable problems. They fiddled with the car for a few minutes, think they got it fixed, rolled him back out, and he's just gone back out and rejoined the track. Right now, the Audi car, the number 8, which is the third place car, just minus 21 seconds, making a fantastic pit stop as Emanuele Pirro gets in the car and he takes it out. A very interesting thing about these Audi pit stops is the fact that every single one of them is videotaped, and then what they do is they review the pit stop to see how it went and make sure everything was okay. They have one at each end of the pit paddock. They are the only team on pit road to have these video cameras, and they actually go back and instantly review them. And as we wait here, we're also waiting for the Rock Volkswagen to come in and make its pit stop. Back up to you.
Well, the guy, I'll tell you, the drive being put in by the 3 drivers in the number 8 Audi R8, Biela, Christensen, and now Pirro, has been awesome. They have not only hauled themselves well clear of the Panoz, but they now have themselves firmly in third, only some 45 seconds prior to that stop, Danny, behind the overall leader. So that number 8 Audi who experienced the problems earlier, those guys are in full charge mode.
That's right. And one thing that he made a comment about that I'm not sure everybody at home understood, because of the length of the track, if there's an incident, they send out a pace car at 2 parts of the track to gather everybody up. Otherwise, the pace car, say, would pick everybody up here in front on the pit straightaway, and some guys are almost an entire lap behind them, would come charging up, maybe on the incident, whatever. It's a safety issue. It's good, but if you get caught in that second car, you can lose a lot of ground.
Lose a lot of ground indeed. Our GTS leader is in, Guy.
Our GTS leader is in, car number 52. A driver change is taking place. The fuel is all going in. The crew waiting. It looks like they will put on 4 new tires this time. I didn't quite catch who got in, but the driving change has taken place. The fuel is in, and now the guys go to work on changing the tires, cleaning the windshield, looking very dirty up front. There to see the spotlight's going to help these guys get their work done in pit lane. In fact, they're changing just the rear tires at this point. No, now they've decided to change the front as well. So getting a new set of Michelins on this Chrysler. And of course, it is the team leader currently in this pit stop, taking a little bit longer, cleaning out the radiator in the front grille. And now he is getting set and ready to pull out of the pit lane here and should be off any second.
It looked actually like he took the front grille off to get something out of the back. He was down there with a screwdriver. I'm not sure if that's a standard procedure.
And that car is back out. So it is a nice stop, Ellen, by that team Thorough. And I mean, you have to do that.
Yeah, some silly little fact I learned today as well. Every single Viper that's ever left the factory has come out on Michelin tires as well. I didn't realize that. But Vipers and Michelin certainly have a great, great partnership together.
Very strong relationship. Boy, that gives you some confidence to know when they're racing around Le Mans, Michelin's, that when you buy your Viper, that's a good set of tires for that car. I want to mention real quick here, just a quick idea of our top 10 is the BMWs in and back out. The Audis, number 9, 7, and 8, continue to run in the top 3. The 2 Panoses are still very strong in 4th and 5th overall. Mario Andretti is driven number 11 in front of the 12 car. 6th is the number 21, a great run, of course, as we mentioned, by the Raffinelli, Lola. And Guy, let's come back down to you. The Rock VW is in.
Yeah, the Rock VW is in, having a great run. This car, of course, doesn't have to make as many pit stops as the others. It's very quick in this 675 class. Just got it refired. I believe it's Geordie Jean who has stepped into, well, stayed in the vehicle, almost stalling it on the way out, and they've got him going, and he is rejoining the field right now.
We had a little smoke coming out of the back. That's probably from the overflow. He did that before, but isn't it amazing? And all this high tech with everything going, saw the guy take the top off and stick a wood stick down in there to check that level.
Well, there's nothing like the old way of doing it. The sister car to that one, of course, is already blown up, and they've closed this garage door. Its engine, unfortunately, let go. And the BMW, by the way, that we saw coming into the pits there, that's owned and driven by Thomas Bashir. Now, he is really a vintage racer that's made a special thing about driving in this type of racing. He goes down the gym and gets himself fit. He's not a poor boy, so he buys a decent car. That's the '98 BMW that was made by Frank Williams, if you remember.
Right, that was that red and white car we saw going out of the pits. The guy looked like he stalled it a little bit, refired it, and took off.
That's exactly right, yeah. So you can actually, as an amateur, go and buy one of these cars if you've got the wherewithal and turn up here and race it. And that's exactly what Thomas Bashir's done. He's hired a couple of guys to help him out, Jeff Lees and Gouillon. And Gouillon actually is really quick. He's the guy that qualified the car.
We also just watched Andy Wallace bring the #1 Caddy into the pits. To finish quickly that top 10, I mentioned the Olive Garden Raffinelli Lowland. 6th, 7th is the DAMS Cadillac, 8th the Renard, 9 the Bashir BMW having a good run, and 10th the Japanese Panoz. We are that close to sunset as it drops behind the hills here of the Sarth Valley, and the track itself in shadows. We'll be right back.